The fifth president of the LDS Church, Lorenzo Snow, famously stated, "As man is, God once was. As God is, man may become. God the Father is an exalted man, and those who live on this earth may one day become divine in the same sense that God himself is." Such an exaltation to godhood is defined by Bruce McConkie as synonymous with salvation itself, in his book Mormon Doctrine, page 257. Widsoe writes, "In short, man is a god in embryo. He comes from a race of gods, and as his eternal growth is continued, he will approach more nearly the point which to us is godhood, and which is everlasting in its power over the elements of the universe." Rational Theology, page 25. All things are in a state of constant growth and progression, including God himself. God has knowledge now that he did not have previously. He is thus not all-powerful, but only appears to be so to human creatures who are not as far along in such progress. God is to be worshipped, not because he is of a different kind, but because he is much farther along in his progression than we are. The majority of LDS theologians purport that God gained exaltation to godhood in time in a manner no different than we can. Brigham Young, for example, famously taught an infinite progression of gods, wherein God was created by another God who was created by another God ad infinitum. This type of Mormonism can in no sense at all be truly labeled monotheism. This is in fact polytheism of the greatest kind, contending that the number of gods which exist are essentially infinite. This approach appears to be that of Smith himself, who writes in the King Follett Discourse in a very famous passage, "In order to understand the subject of the dead for consolation of those who mourn for the loss of their friends, it is necessary we should understand the character and being of God and how he came to be. For I am going to tell you how God came to be God. We have imagined and supposed that God was God from all eternity. I will refute that idea and take away the veil so that you may see." If you want to get a copy of that, you can find it online just by a quick Google search. This leads to the idea of a grandfather God. If God himself is not the greatest of all beings, why is he to be worshipped at all rather than his God, or his God, or his God?